Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We have some breaking news from the transfer portal as Fentrell Cypress, the cornerback from Virginia, has committed to Florida State. There are not many teams in the country that have recruited out of the transfer portal in 2023 better than Florida State, getting elite guys that we'll talk about. But Fentrell Cypress, probably the top of the list. He's a top 5 guy according to 24/7 Sports in the transfer portal. And we'll talk about what he brings. But before we do, just want to say thank you guys for the support. This Florida State Seminoles team is going to be a very, very fun team to talk about in the offseason. A ton of talent returning for 2023. And if you're asking me right now to pick like a dark horse to make the college football players, I don't even think they're a dark horse to win the ACC at this point. Like, there might be the betting odds favorite to win the ACC with everything they have coming back. It's probably the Florida State Seminoles. Before we get into it, though, again, just want to say thank you guys for the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We love talking ball with you guys in the comment section, and the support you guys have shown truly means a lot. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing. That's how you help the boys out. Let's talk a little Fentrell Cypress first. 2 years at Virginia. Very, very good football player. There's a reason why he's a top 5 guy in the transfer portal, according to 24/7 Sports. Played in 11 games this year for the Virginia Cavaliers, who are not a very good team, and was one of the lone bright spots for this team. In 11 games, registered 14 pass breakups. This dude is as sticky as they come. Very, very good at playing the ball in the air. Not necessarily interception production, but when that ball is in the air, he's making a play on it, making it very, very hard for receivers to come down and make plays. And I think this is a position where Florida State wanted to get better at. In the back end, those defensive backs struggled a little bit at times. I thought it was pretty good, but Jamie Robinson just declared for the 2023 NFL draft, and you're getting for all intents and purposes, a lockdown cornerback on the edge. Now, what I want to talk about a little bit more is Fentrell Cypress is a phenomenal, phenomenal pickup for Florida State, but I want to pull up who they've gotten from the portal. And we haven't really done a big culminative video on Florida State and what they've done in the portal, but they're sitting as the number 2 team in the transfer portal, according to recruiting. And what I like what they're doing is they're not just taking volume from the transfer portal. You see teams like USC last year, like Ole Miss last year, just take 20, 25 guys in the portal and bring them in. Florida State doesn't need to do that because this roster is pretty damn good for Florida State. What they're doing, though, is getting really, really good players at positions of need and getting them in. And what I want to talk about, some of the guys are like my favorite guys. Jaheim Bell, coming over from South Carolina, a freak athlete that I don't think Florida State or South Carolina, really knew what to do with. At some point, they were just turning around and handing the ball off to him because he's 6'2", 210 pounds, not necessarily the stereotypical tight end, but damn, is he good in space. And I think if Florida State can figure out a way to get this guy the ball and let him be a playmaker, I think he's going to be probably one of the more impactful tight ends on this Florida State team. And yeah, guys like McDonald for Florida State last year at that tight end position were solid. They weren't the athletes that Jaheim Bell is going to bring to that tight end halfback position. Really excited for him. Darrell Jackson, another guy coming over from Miami who is very productive at Miami. And you add another tight end in Kyle Morlock, who not many people are talking about, but 6'7", 250 pounds in terms of balancing out what Jaheim Bell can do, more of an athletic tight end. Kyle Morlock is a guy that is 6'7", going to be great in the red zone. If Johnny Wilson comes back and you have to cover a guy like Morlock and a guy like Johnny Wilson, 2 guys who are massive, it's going to put a lot of stress on the defense. And I think my favorite pickups, Jeremiah Byers from UTEP, kind of an all-conference dude that's probably the position Florida State struggled with the most. It was just depth at the offensive line. When Robert Scott Jr. goes down, the guys coming in for him weren't necessarily ready for ACC football yet, and I think you saw that. And so even if you have good tackles, it's really important to have depth there. And I think Jeremiah Byers, a guy that's shown he can do it at the college football level, is going to add depth to that position. And then Braden Fisk, another guy that not many people are talking about. He's going to come in. Fabian Lovett is coming back. He just announced that he's going to be coming back for 2023. Braden Fisk, Fabian Lovett. You have some animals on the inside of that Florida State defense that are going to be very, very good. And talk about probably poor linebacker play for the most part. Florida State struggled with the last 5 years. I think it was a lot better with guys like Tatum Bethune and Deloach. But this is going to help. If you want your backers to play better, got to have good interior defensive linemen who are keeping those linebackers clean. I think Braden Fisk will do that. And Fentrell Cypress is just the last guy to kind of round out a really, really strong recruiting class for Florida State. And what you want to talk about now is, what does this roster look like for Florida State? One, Very, very good and underrated win in the Cheez It Bowl. I don't think they played their best football, but being able to get to 10 wins and winning a game that Florida State doesn't normally figure out how to win. Yeah, I think most Florida State fans would agree with me, and I'm a Michigan fan, so I've been there. And it's Michigan started to figure out how to win those close games. You're starting to see Florida State do that too. And when it's close, when you're down by a couple scores, that team doesn't flinch. And even though it was sloppy, that was not Florida State's best game. If they played their best game, they're probably beating Oklahoma by 2 scores. They still figured out how to win that game when it mattered most. And Mike Norvell had a rough start for Florida at his tenure at Florida State. But man, is he figuring it out. These players absolutely love him. They're bringing a pretty strong recruiting class in 2023, and I expect 2024 to be a very strong recruiting class. But more importantly, when you look back at what this team is coming back with in 2023, and we're still not sure on a couple guys' decisions on whether to declare or not, you have the important guys coming back. Jordan Travis, already a dark horse for the Heisman. The improvement he's shown from his pocket presence and passing is night and day. One of the most improved players over the last 3 years in my mind. And you look at him when he's starting out his career at Florida State, more of just an athlete. Now, he's still an athlete, probably the best runner of the football now that Malik Cunningham's going to the draft in the ACC at the quarterback spot. But he is very, very accurate with the football. He's on time, had a completion percentage, I believe, over 65%. And then on top of that brings that athleticism. The running backs, Trey Benson, Tua Philly, Trayshawn Ward, absolute dogs. I think the offensive line got better, and it's going to be better because you add 3 guys from the transfer portal who could come in and at least compete for starting spots. The wide receiver play is probably my biggest question mark, and I think that was the biggest question mark coming into 2022, right? You look back at that 2021 team, and most of your leading receivers were running backs out of the backfield. Johnny Wilson Jr., Micah Pittman. Someone that's not really being talked about enough is Winston Wright Jr., who transferred from West Virginia over the summer last year, got into a very bad car accident, couldn't play football. He was the guy I was most excited to see at Florida State. He should be back and healthy. I love how this wide receiver, and then obviously Hakeem Williams coming in that 2023 class, looking like a dude who will contribute right away. This is a very well-rounded offense with Jordan Travis, who, in my opinion, start the Heisman campaign for Jordan Travis because how he looked to finish out that season. And again, if you guys have followed us for a while, this Florida State team is so much better than the record shows, and that's crazy to say because they went 10-3. They played Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson when they were brutally banged up. Almost whether these guys were playing or not playing, the guys were playing, they were hurt, and they clearly weren't 100%. And they still gave like Wake Forest, Clemson, NC State a run for their money. But if you run that Florida State Clemson game with a healthy Florida State, I really do think Florida State probably wins that football game. And you saw how good they were once they got that bye week. And then down the stretch, they started to dominate. That's how good this Florida State team can be. I only think they get better coming into 2023. And if you're looking for a team in the ACC that's going to unseat Clemson as kind of the king of the ACC, Wake Forest, not going to be as good this year. Clemson, there's a ton of question marks about what the quarterback situation is, who are the coordinators going to be, because quite frankly, you watch them against Tennessee, there's a lot of question marks about how that offense should run. They're going to lose a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Florida State, I think right now, if you ask me to pick a ACC champion, I think it'd be the Florida State Seminoles. Obviously, they got to stay healthy during camp and spring ball, but this team and what they're coming back with, who they've added through the transfer portal, easily my most exciting team to watch in 2023. And you're talking about if you run the table in the ACC, I mean, this is a very, very potentially – this is a team that can make the college football playoffs, which is crazy to say with 2 years ago, Florida State was 5-7. This is a team that if you don't – Florida State fans, you probably know this. I'm talking for more of the fans who aren't necessarily Florida State fans. This is a very, very good team that's returning a lot of guys who have veteran experience and who played really well. You look across the landscape and a lot of players who played as well, like Fabian Lovett could go to the draft. Jordan Travis could have easily gone to the draft. Those guys decide to come back for another year. This Florida State team is dangerous. They add Fentrell Cypress, which is a massive, massive pickup. There's a reason this dude is a top 25 or top 5 dude in the 24/7 Sports Transfer Portal. Florida State team is a team to watch in 2023. I can't wait to see and I'm rooting for Mike Norvell. I'm rooting for this Florida State team. College football is better when Florida State's good. And I'm not even a Florida State fan, but I like what Mike Norvell is doing with this program. And I think this team is the team to be in the ACC next year. Again, wanted to just do a quick one, update you on the transfer portal with Florida State. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.